reproductive health, poor access to social support, barriers to services, as I said before, due to multiple stigma, violence, and sometimes coercion to use drugs. Among transgender people, the use of methamphetamine and or crack cocaine is associated with higher risk of sexual transmission. And the risk behavior that they encounter is that they might be coerced to consume drugs with clients, and that increases the risk for unprotected sex and the chances of being victim of violence. People who inject drugs, people who inject stimulants. Injecting stimulant drugs, of course, carries a greater risk of acquiring hepatitis C and HIV due to the higher rate of injecting and also sharing the equipment. Injecting drug use in the context of chemsex, slamming, can be associated with HIV risk behavior, such as engaging in unsafe sexual behaviors. And we already saw outbreaks of HIV in Greece, in Romania, and in Hungary recently, mainly associated with the injecting of psychoactive substances and other things. People in prison. Well, there are drugs in prisons. We all know these stimulant drugs as well. Like in the general population, they increase the sexual misbehavior among prisoners. Female prisoners are more vulnerable. People living with HIV, well, cocaine and amphetamine type stimulants have negative impact on the immune system, and particularly among people who are living with HIV. This may accelerate the evolution of HIV among those who do not adhere to IRT. There are worse outcomes among people who are not aware that they are living with HIV or who don't have access to antiretroviral treatment. Of course, like many in population, they experience high marginalization, they have few resources, struggling with poverty, and also including limited access to adequate nutrition. And it's important to address all these barriers. The last group I will mention is women who use drugs. They face multiple stigma and barriers when access to HIV services and health services, and also when accessing supplies, including condoms and contraceptives. Other factors include gender-based violence, fear of forced or coerced sterilization or abortion, fear of losing child custody. It's not only about women who use stimulants, it's about women who use drugs in general. Their access to services is always lower than man access, as well as access to any form of treatment. The last module I would like to talk about, and I will let Matt to continue, is the module 5 that describes the core intervention. So in the guide that we are developing, we came up with 8 interventions: condoms and lubricants, needle and syringe programs and other commodities, HIV testing, antiretroviral therapy, evidence-based psychosocial interventions and drug dependence treatment, prevention, diagnosis and treatment of sexual transmitted infections, hepatitis and tuberculosis, targeted interventions, and prevention and management of overdose acute intoxication. And now I invite my co-trainer, Matt, to briefly talk about these 8 interventions.
Great. Okay, so it's really great. These are guidelines from UNODC. We've been waiting for a very, very long time to have them. It's taken a while to find a sort of consensus-based model of understanding what do we collectively understand about working with people who use stimulants. Part of the challenge, I think, is because the evidence base emerges over time. We don't always have the money for double blindings, trials to actually put in place the evidence, but particularly for the WHO, there is always an expectation that things have to meet this very, very high research threshold. And I think what we've been able to see here is with a different type of set of standards within UNO, we see that there's an ability to be a bit more inclusive about the work on the ground, and even more so looking at mainline work through GIZ, that we've now got these really clear packages of what works. So the first issue is around male and female condoms. Yes, and making sure that people have appropriate lubricants. One of the challenges we can have with stimulant use is that people can become quite dried up and internally your mouth can become very dry, but that can also happen in the vagina as well, which then that can also be really helpful for people to avoid the sort of rough sex type issues or the over tension that might increase the risk of harm, particularly increase the risk of Hep C transmission. And of course also we know that this helps manage things like STDs and HIV as well. And particularly given that crack or crack and cocaine have really quite negative outcomes on the children of heavy crack and methamphetamine users, potentially because of the way that cocaine particularly restricts the umbilical cord and therefore restricts the amount of nourishment going towards the baby. So it's not about it's often about the well-being of the mother. It can somehow mirror mothers who are very unwell during their pregnancies. It's not about necessarily demon and crack stuff. It's more about the nourishment that is going through. So that allows people to make choices about when they want to be pregnant in terms of having children. Then in terms of safer sex education, it's one of the interesting things that we've not actually been very successful getting drug users and injecting drug users to understand and to act on the importance of not sharing using syringes. But in fact, actually, in terms of injecting drug users and safer sex, actually they're no more likely to practice safer sex than the wider population. And I think that's an interesting fact. People can so clearly understand the risks around injecting, but somehow they don't have any more engagement in safer sex than the general population. And I think that's about starting to really think about what is our messaging, how we're getting this across. Just putting condoms in every needle pack isn't really a sort of a dynamic way of getting people to think through the management of sex in different ways that they might be having to deal with. One of the key issues is around safe sex strategies and negotiation strategies. Now we see transactional sex and people swapping sex for drugs. Particularly when we're in situations where there is increasingly now, particularly seen in parts of the global north, non-drug using or non-crack using dealers. So people who are often migrating from being cannabis users. The crack dealers in our area would often talk about us as crackheads and being incredibly dismissive of us as drug users and just profiteering out of us in that way. Now then that means that they can be then even more exploitative of what is drugs. So and for example, we had one drug dealer in my hometown of Bath, a very picturesque city, who was offering drug using women lines of cocaine, which then turned out to be lines of ketamine, which then were used as a chance to date rape those rape, or not date rape, so just rape in that situation. So helping people think about management around those types of risks. Thinking about PrEP, PrEP is a challenging question. Definitely the consultation that input is undertaken really highlighted that when we have such limited access to harm reduction, we're nowhere close to giving out 200 syringes a day for each person, 200 syringes a month for each person. Given all of that, starting to spend lots of money on PrEP seems to be a distraction. However, there are some key intersectional populations, people involved in chemsex, people involved in sex work, where actually PrEP could be a useful issue. So I think it's about thinking not that PrEP is never appropriate for people who inject drugs or people who use stimulant drugs, but thinking when is it appropriate, but let's also make sure we get the other core harm reduction interventions in there. That's it. Okay. So So then we're looking at issues of needle and syringe programs, recognising that in many ways stimulant users are great at really testing the quality of needle and syringe programs, because if you cap syringe supplies or you do exchange, not proper distribution, that really causes problems for people who inject drugs. I mean, if we are injecting stimulants, we can be using 20 to 100 times within the using session. If you've got 4 or 5 of you doing that, that's a lot of syringes. And when you're going in asking for boxes of syringes, in our local pharmacy we get 5 syringes a time for our needle packs. And I've routinely had to argue with pharmacists to stop that, saying, oh, you've got 3 packs, why do you need 3 packs? Isn't that so many? And you're going, 3 packs, that's 15 syringes. Now, do you understand how often we inject, which then means we're left reusing, which has particular problems, particularly if there's lots of people using together and they get mixed up. But that's where the never share coloured syringes can be particularly helpful. And let's not forget the lost opportunity that we seem to be having around low dead space syringes. And let's give out the right needles and syringes. A more general question. I'm so frustrated to be seeing people buying millions of the wrong types of syringes, which leads drug users into unsafe using practices. Not because of their poor education, but because of the collective professional organisation. People giving out 3 ml barrels and blue needles to inject China White in my mind. What the fuck? It's like, no, these are things that should be done with 1 ml syringes. And it just shows there isn't a proper dialogue with people who use drugs, because any drug user will be able to tell you that that's not the right case. However, when we were then in Myanmar trying to teach people to then change away from that, they've now got used to that as a practice, and they're used to this harmful practice, and now it takes a huge amount of time to move them away again. So again, we need to get procurement right around needles and syringes as well, recognising the range of products. Yes, that's cool. It's important also to remember, do we talk about root transition interventions? Yes, so again, thinking about flexible times, recognising the role of secondary needle and syringe programs. People who use stimulants are often using stimulants when services are closed. It's a classic case where I ran a gay drug dealer in a gay drug supplier in London. I had a fantastic relationship. He was the first drug supplier. He was one of the biggest suppliers to the gay scene in London, and he was working with the early adopters of people who injected drugs in that scene, methamphetamine and ketamine and cocaine. And they were very, very stigmatised. While in Australia and New Zealand, injecting was very prevalent in the gay community, in the UK gay community, you could still be beaten up by security if you injected in toilets while they were running the rest of the drug dealing scene in the club. So there seems to be this highly stigmatising approach towards people who inject. So that became a challenge. But we had this gay drug dealer who would give out needles and syringes, educate everybody through the message by proxy, and then a better referral pattern I saw from many agencies, selectively referring people through to us who are having early problems around ketamine dependency, GBH dependency, methamphetamine psychosis, other issues. People who would never traditionally go towards a national and NSP because they just didn't see themselves as part of that population. So then looking at this other issue of commodities, I think we've seen, I really want to pay testimony to Mark Kinsley, who, when he was working for Yale, pioneered this approach of giving out either bowl pipes for methamphetamine users or stems for crack users, and to remember an honourable memory of Rafi Balin, who was alongside Mark's work in New York, went on and championed that work in Canada. Just a little thing, it's not always legally possible to give out pipes because of paraphernalia laws in different countries. So in some contexts, like in Afghanistan or in the UK, where drug users are spontaneously making homemade pipes that don't have cigarette ash in them, that don't have the high risk of plastic and other things like that, sometimes we can promote those rather than having to go for stems. So in Afghanistan, drug users, fantastic drug users, they take 2 5 ml water amps and blow them into methamphetamine pipes with immense skill. They learned to do it within 6 months of methamphetamine arriving in Kabul. In the UK, we have these little miniature Martell bottles of brandy, and people use those instead. So if you can't always get the enabling environment in place, often with innovation with people who use drugs, you can find alternative smart strategies to help people change. Classics of testing is really important, getting people to think through what is the implications of testing. We've seen really pioneering work, for example, from Drug User News to reach people through the dark web with testing. And I think we need to think about what is this creative. We now have much more flexible, accessible models of dry blood spot testing. And I think we really need to be pushing this test and treat model further to get people moving forward. Antiretroviral treatment, one of the big challenges is that while we recognise the real value of OST as a baseline for ART, we too often make it a condition of ART, and that's hugely problematic for stimulant users. There is no reason why someone using stimulants can't also practice self-control